Hi, me again. I had a comment left on one of my videos. I think it was my first one actually, saying that he or she, I'm not sure the gender of the person who left the comment, didn't understand why atheists had to speak out and say I'm an atheist in the same way I suppose that the religious people feel the need to. So I'd like to briefly address that question, if I may, and try and give an answer from my own perspective. I would like to just stress again that I certainly don't speak for all atheists. This isn't some kind of this is what everybody believes kind of sermon or anything. This is just purely from my own point of view, seeing as I was asked the question. So really, I think the primary reason I feel the need to speak out is that, well, it's what I addressed in my first video actually, briefly, is that there's this sort of stigma attached to being an atheist, when really there's no need for one. And I think part of the way to address a stigma is to actually be proud of the stigma that you've been assigned, and to actually say with some sense of pride, this is who I am, and I'm not a bad person. In the same way that gays have done that from the 80s onwards mostly, when they've said, you know, I'm gay and so what, and the way that women did in the past, I'm a woman, why does that make me any different? In the same sort of way, I feel like I'm doing the same kind of thing for atheists, rather than just kind of ignoring the issue or hiding quietly as I did in that situation I addressed in my first video, where the lady asked me was I religious, and I was kind of afraid to give an answer, I'm an atheist. It got me thinking, why should I be afraid? There's no reason for me to be afraid. There's nothing wrong with being an atheist. It's a standpoint that a lot of people have. So I just wanted to briefly address that point and say, you know, that's the main reason that I feel personally why I should stand up and say I am an atheist. Because there's absolutely nothing wrong with it, yet there is a stigma attached to being an atheist. Secondly, I've noticed since moving to the US, and again this is from my perspective as a British person moving to the US, is that the Constitution states that there should be a clear separation of church and state, and yet tax money does go to fund religious organisations or religious movements, as it were. And I don't feel this is fair. If this is something that you want to support, then fine, great, go do it on your own. But why should tax dollars go to support a religious organisation? For example, not just for atheists, but if you were a Muslim living in the US, and your tax dollars that you were spending went to support a Christian organisation, then that would probably go against your beliefs. If you were Jewish and it went to support a Christian organisation, if you were atheist and it goes to support a Christian, it makes perfect sense really when you think about it. Why should tax dollars go to support a religious organisation? There is absolutely no need for it, especially in a country where the separation of church and state is supposed to be absolute. Of course, in Great Britain, which really probably isn't so great anymore, there is no separation of church and state. The Church of England is a state religion, as it were. And interestingly enough, which I will address in a future blog, that's actually made Britain much more secular than the United States. And I will address that one in a later blog, why that might be the case. But there is no separation of church and state, that's even more the case in England, that your tax money can go to fund Christian organisations or movements. And I think it's very important to not have that mix-up. If you want to support a religious organisation, that is entirely up to you. I'm certainly not saying that nobody should support any religious organisations. That is entirely a matter of personal choice. But because it's a matter of personal choice, why should we have to fund it? Why should people of other denominations or religions have to fund it? It doesn't make any sense, particularly in the United States, as I said, where there is supposed to be this clear separation of church and state. So that's the other reason I believe it's important to speak up and say that you are an atheist. So that's just my 2 cents on the subject. I hope that's answered the question for the person who posted the comment. Thank you for posting it. It's a very valid point, and I'm glad I was able to address it. So I will see you guys soon with another blog update. Thanks again for watching. Take care.